got a message from my sister that the operation went through. Mum was in recovery and will be in intensive care for a couple of days, which was all known before. And I suddenly felt earlier that I should. My first thought is I want to know what's going on, if she's alright. I'll contact my sister. She probably will know. She contacts. Why can't I do it myself? So I sent her a message about 3 hours ago, which she hasn't seen yet. And in having sent the message, I actually started the process of, well, I'll ring the Wellington and just speak to one of the nurses or somebody who can give me an update on her situation, because she's obviously asleep or medicated. It starts to appear to be the actions of somebody who cares, who wants to know. But it could also be that there isn't anything else. You know, I enjoy watching a good documentary or a film. There's not so many around, but I like it, and I find some very interesting documentaries and podcasts on YouTube. In fact, I probably watch YouTube more than anything else. But there isn't anything else. I mean, there's everything in potential. Plenty of things could be done, but nothing matters. I'm just here, on my own, alone. I'm okay with that. I am not lonely, but I am still isolated intentionally from everyone. No one will come round. No one will want to see me. No one is expecting anything from me. There's nothing I have to do. Nowhere I have to be. I'm free to do anything. The weather's not particularly nice, but I could go out in it, and I even have a car. I could choose to do driving instead of walking. Without Mum, I have no reason for being here. I have to be somewhere, and with Mum here, even though I let her get on with her life, her way, only assisting or offering help if it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, she takes care of what she needs and what she wants in the way she wants it, as she's always done. Part of me gets resentful, as if I can't find a way to give unconditionally, to give with good heart. Like I don't want to, that I withdraw, that actually instead of giving her space to be her, I want to control myself. I want things quieter because it's easier for me. And Mum's even tried to accommodate that. It doesn't make any difference. In fact, perhaps it makes it harder because even though I find it irritating, annoying, intrusive, inconsiderate that the noise of her televisions intrudes upon me and I can't do anything about it, ultimately that changes anything. I can put earplugs in, but sometimes I can still hear it. But it's all a resistance, and she can either lower it, which she has done, even though I was doing my best to accept that it was like that, because she made it clear that she needed it to be like that. I would have loved if she'd watched less television, but she was watching a lot of television. It was never off. She would move from the living room to the bedroom, and the television would go on immediately. It would be on all night, whether she was awake or not. And she would move out of there in the morning, back into the living room, and the television would go on again. The living room has no door, so if I didn't have my earplugs in, then I would be woken up, or she would come out of her bedroom to make herself a cup of tea, leave the door wide open. The television would suddenly double in volume with the door open, and if I didn't have earplugs in, I would be woken up immediately. And this went on day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. Doing my best to not expect the outside to change inside. I have to change how I deal with it. Why am I so affected? Putting earplugs in has been something I've done many times in my life. When I go out to walk, I put earplugs in. I'm not resentful of the traffic being so noisy that it's offensive and that the cars should lessen. No, I just put earplugs in. I can still hear the traffic, but it helps. So I would put earplugs in just to walk into the kitchen, past the living room with the television on so loud, and it would help. It wouldn't be so intrusive. It wouldn't bother me so much. It would create an isolated feeling. It would ensure that I had no way to spend any time with her, hardly engaged her, sometimes couldn't even hear her. It would bother me that she would have conversations on the phone with the television still on that loud, so she would have to shout louder in order to sort of feel heard. It'd be quite intrusive for the listener to have to hear the television caught by the mic as well. I asked her if she would at least mute it when she's talking on the phone, so she would talk a bit quieter. I still found myself caught in wanting her to change her behaviour as well. I couldn't just do it all myself. I couldn't find a way to be completely at peace with her being who she is, and me feeling grateful and happy to have a space that is mine, that I can be myself in and do what I do in it, without having to take material responsibility, pay rent, pay bills. It's nice not to have that. And so I've been, making the most of it. I know it won't last forever. This will change. Everything does. I don't know when. And each time Mum goes into hospital, especially this one, I still didn't have the feeling that she would die on the operating table, but of course it was a possibility. And I don't know how much pain and how weak she is after it's finished. But with her being gone and me having a few days again, that heaviness, that paranoia, that negativity lifts. It's gone. I work it out. I talk it out. I laugh it out. I walk about. I just expand into myself, and I only need a little bit of time to breathe out again. I sort of and feel back to a much more normal sense of myself. I do care about her, but I know that who I'm caring about in this moment, who I feel, is my version of her, is a sort of somebody I can get on with, somebody that I communicate with, that there aren't issues, that I'm okay. I don't know. And I don't know if she exists, because I start to feel like that's real. I can feel that reality close. Then she comes back into my reality. I come back into her reality, and everything crashes down. I cannot sustain it even for a moment. And I realized that I must have been doing that a lot in the past with others, having an idea of who I see them to be and wanting that to be real so much that actually for a while it actually looks like they are to me. They don't know quite what to make of me. They don't know what I'm experiencing, and I am being very honest and open about what I feel, so they know a lot, but they don't know everything. I can't put those things into words. But it's not a real thing. It's an illusion. It's a kind of a possible future created out of my own energy at imagining it into reality, manifesting it. And yet somehow, even though it looked like it to me, it was never something that existed in its own right. That unless I continue to hold that, and after some period of time, I just can't, because obviously it is an illusion and it's got to break through. It's got to come back. I've got to wake up. So I can't get on with my mum. It just can't happen. We can deal with each other. I definitely can help her. I can do some things, but I can't seem to stop a build-up of negative residual energy that I'm always attempting to deal with. So I'm in a state of stress, and it just means I need space, and not just her going out for a few hours, because I never know when she's going to return, or I can't settle. I can't find this kind of peace within me. I say peace, presence. With her being in hospital, she doesn't have to exist for a bit, and she hasn't. I mean, she never goes away, but it doesn't matter what happens. Whatever happens is fine. She's in recovery now, in intensive care for a couple of days, then back to the ward, probably in a lot of pain. It can't be easy. It's got to be very difficult for her. And it feels like it would be very selfish, too selfish for me to just act as if I don't care, because not contacting would make it seem like that. So suddenly I care about how I am seen again, which means that I have to try to please, try to do what someone else wants me to do, rather than what it is that I feel I can do or am able to do. And I've been like this all my life, attempting to fit myself in to someone else's idea of who I am. And my mum has had a pretty strong feeling about how she sees me, about how she sees me being who I am. If I deviate, if I am not able to back it up, if I'm not able to recognize that she's doing something for me or helping me to be better, or somebody else anyway, she removes herself psychologically. She did this when I was a kid. I used to feel it as a withdrawal of love. And I think that's what it is. It still is that. It's a withdrawal of love. She just does her own thing. She just focuses on what she wants, what she's interested in, what's going on in her life, her friends, her life, just as she would be were I not here. Because were I not here, and just a little bit prior to my being here, I had no contact with her. We didn't talk, no communication of any kind. I never called her. I never really thought of her. It wasn't until my sister told me what was going on, her cancer and so on, that it became impossible for me to continue to act as if everything was the same. I had to want to reconnect, maybe even care and do something, and if I was there I'd be able to look after her and take her to her appointments and so on. And I started to imagine that would be possible, and as my situation there got worse, so that became more possible because it was an answer, it was a solution. I never felt that I could just leave where I was living, and I had wanted to many, many times for various different reasons with different people. I somehow continued to stay. I convinced myself that there was benefit, that they were pushing my buttons, I was struggling to cope, and there had to be a solution, and it couldn't be that they were all wrong and they had to change, and if they only changed, it would be better. There had to be something in me, something that was missing, something that I wasn't getting, something that wasn't working, and it made sense that how would I recognize it, how would I find it if it wasn't continually in my face? If I was able to run away from it, if I found myself running away, finding somewhere where I didn't have to have that happen, then it would feel like it wasn't there anymore and I would be at peace again. At least that's what I'd imagined. That's what I'd looked for in the past. Instead, I just accepted it. I did my best to accept it. And when I couldn't accept how things were, I did my best to accept how I felt about how things were. And I found peace because everything changed. Everything, even at the time, it doesn't feel like it's going to. It's still changed. It's still lifted. It's still got better. I still felt like I could make a life there, that I could find happiness, that it was okay. But there was this thing niggling me about Mum needing somebody, and I knew that I'm the only one who could do this. I'm the only one who could live here, be around her, even though most of my life I'd spent away, apart, because I could not handle it. I never carried a hard heart. I don't have a heavy heart about it. There's no hate. But in the present, when she's here, when it's happening, sometimes I'm not so sure. The moment that she's not here, even just a couple of hours during the day, it immediately lifts. It's not the true feeling I have. I don't have that sort of feeling about anybody. But being in her presence and being in a state of resistance and resentment, stress and anxiety, fear and paranoia, which is what she is experiencing, I'm struggling not to take that into me as this is how I experience reality. And because we aren't getting on, we don't talk, there's no feeling of kindness. It's very hard to be kind. The kindness, in a sense, for me with her is to not make it harder. Because when I try to do something, when I have an idea that I think might work, that would make it easier for her or make things better, she rejects it. It tends to fail, and I actually come to feel like I don't know why I even tried that. What was I expecting? How could it have done anything else? And each time I've felt this feeling that I could do something for her, you can give her that, and do it with a good heart and attempt to put it into practice, she rejects it. She finds a way to reject it, not directly, but she does, or life comes in and interferes with it, so that it's almost like, no, you're not supposed to do that. You don't need to do that. You can't find salvation by suddenly caring about her, because it won't last. You'll do it once, you'll do it twice, and then something will happen, something will shift. You'll find yourself choosing to do it yourself again and letting her go, even though she's just over there in the room. And it's very hard for me to get up and help her or even show her that I'm there. Do you need anything? I just let her get on with it. All the things that, even the simplest of things, making her a cup of tea, used to do it. I don't drink it, but I would do it if she didn't feel able to. When she comes back from the hospital, It may be that she's not really able to do even getting up to make tea easily, in which case it gives me a reason to help her again. I can deal with that because I'm okay to help somebody who is trying to help themselves but still needs help. She doesn't ask for help. Not really. She doesn't like it. She doesn't even really like to have to get my help. But she does have my help, and often it's not done in a way that she likes. It doesn't make her feel connected, and that's the point. I protect myself from her loving smotheringness by disconnecting from her and holding her at bay. And that's quite tiring. It's quite draining on me, I realise. Clearly, it would make more sense for me not to have to do that, to be able to accept her, to give her what she wants, to help her with what she needs, to not judge her decision, to not compare how I would do it compared to what she would do, and if I think my idea is better, sort of begin to impose it, expect it to be considered and then accepted. It's what I used to do with Sarah and Em. I thought that what I saw was better, and when I feel like I'm in a position of power so that I can exert influence, I do so. And it's why power corrupts, because there's no checks and balances. There's nothing to sort of help me step out to give a balanced perspective on the reasons why I feel what I feel, when it's been shown to me time and time again that I can feel very strongly about something 1 minute and then feel differently the next. Not be able to keep up with, well, what is it I actually feel? So I have to kind of not be attached to any of it. Whatever it is I do feel, I recognise is just transitory. It's just ephemeral. It's passing through. So that I can step back from it all, rather than be running around following this and following that, and then regretting this and doubting that, and coming back and was I right and was I wrong, and where should I go next, and what does this mean, and do I need to know, and all of this mind stuff. Actually, let it all go. So I don't need to know. So it doesn't matter what happens next. So it doesn't matter what the outcome of a situation is, what takes place as a result of what gets done. Who says what, who thinks what, who goes here, who goes there. It doesn't matter, none of it matters. It just is what it is. It's what happens. So I'm not controlling it, I'm not influencing it, I'm not affecting it, I'm only observing it. It's not that I don't care, it's that it doesn't matter. It's that there's no preference. It's okay if this happens or nothing happens. It's okay if that happens or nothing happens. They're all equal results. That if I, in the moment, reveal, oh, I see this, or I think that, or I've got a preference, then it may have an influence. Somebody may consider it, they may listen, and now I'm involved. Now I'm taking responsibility because I've influenced, I've had a say in, an effect on the outcome. So I'm a part of it. I'm connected to it. Mum sometimes gives the impression that she wants to be able to let go by trusting somebody else to do it for her. And while I felt like I could do it for her and she could trust me to do it for her, actually that would never work out for me. And she shows it in herself by not wanting the things that I do for her. She wants it to be done for her, but only wants it her way, and I don't know what's in her head, and sometimes I don't understand what she says. She would have to accept that getting help from somebody who's willing to help is better than it coming the way that she needs it to be, because it's better than not having it at all when she can't do it herself. She hasn't got there yet. She's not ill enough. She's not weak enough. So maybe that's what this path is. And that at some point, like I felt with my daughter, when she was first born, I didn't really feel I could do anything. I felt too reluctant. I didn't know how to get involved. I couldn't see who this little person was. It wasn't until she was 2 or around 2, 3 that I recognized I could see her becoming the person that she would become, and I could help bring that out, and that gave me a purpose that I'd never had before. So the few little moments that Mum has been very weak and ill have allowed me to open up a bit to her, because she doesn't jump in and shove her opinion, shove her perspective down my throat, tell me that I'm wrong, that this isn't right, that's not what she wanted, that's not how I want it, why can't I have it how I want it? We all like to get things, we all like things to be how we want them. And when we're on our own, we can have it. We can do things the way we want it. We don't have to consider anybody else. And it's not selfish. It's almost completely free of selfishness. I mean, I suppose you could, when you're on your own, you go and eat the last of the biscuits that you know you both like, that could be seen as selfish. It doesn't matter. It's trivial, but it could still be seen that way. Oh, you've eaten all the biscuits. Oh, I just fancied having a couple of those. Why did you eat them all? You know, you're trying to make some kind of you're living together. So little strangeness, things like that start to sort of become bigger. And I noticed that with Mum. If something wasn't in the right place, if something had been moved, she was on it in an OCD kind of way, because her little world had become huge, because there was nothing else. That it was sort of closing in on her, and she was keeping it at bay, trying to do the same things she'd always done, trying to go out, keep driving, keep it going. But life is saying, doesn't matter what you do, it's going to stop. You can't take this with you. You can't keep your idea of who you are going. It's going to become physically impossible, and then you have to accept that. So she's coming towards it, kicking and screaming, rather than in a measured and mindful and considered way. I have had a few conversations with her where ideas like that have come up, where I've said to her, you could do it like that. You don't have to resist it. You don't have to be afraid. You could just accept it. And if you accept that it is as it is, you can then open to walking towards it, rather than hiding in the corner and hoping it doesn't see you. At the time when I say those things, I know I'm talking to somebody who understands what I mean. But somehow it doesn't stay. She doesn't hold it. The previous vibration pulls her back to her lower natural state. I'm in a very high-minded state, and I'm activating her higher self. Basically, effectively, her higher self is talking to herself just through me. I'm telling her what she needs to hear. At least that's how it feels. When I'm no longer in that state myself, I also don't quite see it the same way, and she sort of slips back because there's no reinforcement. I'm not reinforcing that connection feeling of talking to her by spending more time with her, watching television with her, taking her out, going this, having a good, kind and considerate interacting, so that she appreciates having her son here, instead of feeling like she's always in conflict with me. She's always dealing with the fact that I'm so difficult for her to read and to get on with and to reply to and to connect with, that she doesn't know what to do. She gives up, she tries again, she tries another way, she gives up. And when she gives up, the experience I go through is where I can, completely and legitimately, because I feel that she's disconnected, just like I used to as a kid, but in reverse, as a kid, I never understood why it was like that, and I wanted to fill the gap. I've so missed having my mother, who was constantly in my life and telling me what to think and telling me what to do and doing it for me and doing a good job of making me feel free from the heaviness that society life can put. She kept me able to be light by not allowing me to acquire the tools I would need to deal with the world, so that when I was kicked out, here you go into the world now. Well, after having rejected my Judaism, so that I didn't get to continue being closeted in the Jewish school until I left the school system, I'd had to go into a world I didn't recognize or know how to deal with at the age of 11, and struggled really as a result. It was very difficult for me. But the journey of struggle and hard path reveals truths, and wisdom can be found, understanding and experience, and all of that stuff. It's a life. That's what life is for us to experience what happens and evolve from it. There is, and I've talked about this before, there is energy, there is something to be gained from the resistance, from pulling against or pulling away, or like two magnetic poles of the same polarity trying to cut, but always being pushed if they come too close, because the energy is just too strong. You just can't bring them together. And as a result of that friction, that actually some support, some help comes out of it for finding the truth of things. Because I often look at what's causing this. And the fact is that as soon as she's away, as soon as we have separation for a little bit, it immediately lifts. So it's not intrinsically us. It's something about how we are, and the beliefs and the issues and the buttons and the damage and all of that stuff seemingly never really healing, never actually healing. It shifts a bit, it changes a bit, it lightens a bit, but it never goes away, and it then always comes back and can be quite heavy, can suddenly be heavy again, as if I feel like I'm right back at the beginning. This was the feeling I had when I first came here, the first month, first 6 weeks, first couple of months, first few months, letting go of my wife letting go of me, letting go of friends, beginning to detach and let go of all of the past. It was a long process to do that. But there was a lot of resistance in me, a lot of regret. I made a mistake. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I just want to go. I always want to leave. I always feel I want to get to where I am. There's always a part where I absolutely feel like that's where I want to get to. And then very quickly, I no longer want to be here. I want to get to somewhere else. I don't know where the somewhere else is. That's the hellish part, you could imagine. You could say that I don't have another escape, but I feel like I want to. And I have to deal with living with that. I want to escape, but I can't. I could choose it, but I'm not going to. I don't want to. Constant battle between one vibration and another, one state and another. Constant battle. Never knowing what I want. Wanting both and wanting neither. That's why I have to come to the conclusion that I can no longer want. I have to rise above the wanting. I have to rise above the attachment to the idea or the feeling in the moment, acting upon it as if that's all there is. Maybe reacting to it as if that's all there is, and that's the truth. There's no other truth. There's no other way of seeing it in that moment. Therefore, just react to it because that's all there is. And that's not true. But just in that moment, that's how I see it. There is nothing else. I have no other perspective. I'm totally and completely identified. I'm fully in it. I'm fully feeling it. That is the truth of my life, and nothing will change that. So it's hard not to react to it. It's hard not to protect myself from it. It's hard not to want to have to do something about it as quickly as possible, so that I limit how long I have to stay in what feels like hell. I'm always trying to escape from what feels like hell, sometimes even finding momentary heavens, just moments of heaven, reminding me what it's like to be in heaven, even sometimes just for a fraction, suggesting that maybe I'm here now, and then nope, discovering that actually that was also in the hell, because I have to go back. I'm still not done. It's still not finished. It's not over yet. So therefore I don't have to conclude anything about where I happen to be in this moment, because if it's not over yet, if the book's still unfinished, if maybe it's still being written, so I have no idea what the ending is, or how many more chapters to go, or whether or not it suddenly changes into a completely different book. I don't know any of it. But if I start to think I do, if I start to feel like this is what I have to do, this is what is how it's going to be, I get lost. I have to escape like everybody else. I have to distract myself. Not unconsciously. I'm completely and always aware that I am still dealing with this. It's not I'm absolutely buried my head in the sand. I don't want to know. No, I want to know. But I just can't keep doing it day in, day out, day in, day out. I need a break. It's hard. It's like being at the highest level in university. You can't just keep doing it. You have to have time to just the brain just goes into relaxation. No thoughts. Just veg, watch something, walk. Pleasure. Just relax. No thinking. Just let it go. You're free for it for now. It lasts for a certain period, usually determined externally, especially of late, and then back into class. And by then I'm ready to go back into class, because I know that if I'm going back into class, I need to take the class, and I can't and won't understand, discover, release, let go, whatever it is I have to do, if I avoid it. If I bunk off, if I run away and don't take the class, there'll always be something I didn't do. There will always be something missing that will have to be found another way. Sometimes it's hard to remember. If you can imagine the complexity of the synchronicity of how things have to organize in the world in order for certain things to come into alignment in that moment, and then just to sort of not recognize it, how much more organizing would be required to create a situation that brought that experience into reality again. So the important experiences, those things that sort of must happen, it's better that I'm open to them so that I don't run away thinking that they mean something else, that they have no value, when actually so many times, the very moment after I've turned away, I realize the value it had. I realized that I had turned away from something that, had I been looking at it through these eyes, these few moments afterwards eyes, I would have made a different choice. So I don't know whether I was always going to fail, or whether or not that was the test and I wasn't ready. I could have made the choice. I could have open to it, but somehow I didn't. I chose to not open to it. I chose to not be ready to continue in the reality that I was in, that opening to this thing would have changed, would have definitely changed something for sure. Effectively, I've made the choice to continue in this reality when actually I'm ready to go beyond it, or so I think. When those moments come where I could actually slip into a whole different reality, I must prove that I'm not ready to go by not choosing it, by not seeing it, by not recognizing how important it is to open to this reality and not be afraid of what might come from it within the first few moments, no matter what it looks like. That I need to give myself time to change so that the outside changes, rather than expect the outside to instantly change when I think I've changed, to prove that I've changed. Look, I've changed. Look how everything is so much better. Oh, it's not better? I haven't changed. Actually, that's not true. I have changed. The outside reality hasn't caught up because there's an awful lot set in motion by how things have been. Little beams of light do pop through. I've noticed a few. I noticed the signs. And then I kind of let them go because it's all I can do. It's not much can reach me here. It's not, for me, ideal. It's a reality that I can and do live in. Not really. I avoid as much of the normal life that the people around me live because I really don't enjoy experiencing it. So I don't participate in it, or I do so in a very particular way and then come out of it, and I'm always internal. It's always an experience that I have looking out. So this is not my preferred reality, but I have skills that allow me, and I've been practicing a lot of recent years, to be in places, live in places, tolerate, accept things that do have value, but are shouting almost initially, run, 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 this is hell, run, run, to actually accept, to go to hell and learn to live there, to actually accept that it is valid, so not invalidate it, not make it hell by detesting and resisting, but understanding that I bring myself here by the choices I made, by the way I think, by the way I feel. I seem to be able to continue. There's some value in it, that something, this last part, but this part that is so difficult for me to get to, it's so difficult for me to recognize and really let go of, that holds me back, that keeps me back. Everyone's waiting for me, and somehow I can't get to you. Instead of, I used to think that I was helping everyone to come up, to wake up, that we're all waiting for you to wake up, but actually maybe it's the other way around. Maybe they're waiting for me. They're waiting for me to wake up. And when I wake up, who knows what takes place? I've been waking up for ages, or so I've thought. I keep seemingly falling back to sleep, having to wake up again and again and again. Remember that you were waking up. Look what happened. You made these choices. You went there. You forgot that you were waking up. You forgot that you can see thoughts. You don't have to identify with them. That actually you're letting go of life rather than immersing yourself in it. That there's too much of this life that I don't want. I'm not interested in playing with. Again, I played with it a lot. And I realized towards the end of my playing with it last time that I didn't want to play with it anymore. I understand why people constantly believe it's true and real and it's what they want, and they go round and round and round, and so have I. I don't want it anymore. Could that be because I don't want the negativities that come from it? Perhaps. But I don't want it anymore. I don't want to have to make myself small in order to fit somewhere where being me is not acceptable. Being who I am in the different aspects of me in different situations is not acceptable. Yes, you can be like this and like this and like this, but if you're going to be like this, nope, sorry, don't want you. I don't think it's possible for me to find a situation, because I can't give that to other people, that I have to accept them completely. I have to accept you, and I do accept you completely. It's okay. It doesn't matter what you do. Whatever you genuinely feel is the right thing to do. Who am I to say, no, that's not the right thinking? Who am I to interfere? Who am I to have you justify why it is that you're doing that when you know that's what you want to do? That's what you need to do. You have that sense of you. That's the know thyself bit. You know yourself. So you know and trust when you have that feeling. And while I don't know if it's 100% true, it still gets messed up by the beliefs and definitions maybe that we have, but we know that people are very good at knowing who they are. I don't have a fixed point of reference. I only have moments in time when I attempt to be authentic, and they don't always work. I mean, look, is this authentic? I think so. It's as real as I can get. But would I be saying things like this if there was somebody listening? Maybe, but it wouldn't be like this. It would be affected by their presence. Certainly it could be interfered with, and I wouldn't do it if there were. I have spoken like this with other people, with one person in particular, maybe two, maybe three. But it's not something that I can sustain. They can't handle it continuously. Only a digital technology can do that. I can decide to record, talk to this thing, and it never minds. As long as it's got space to hold me, it will always do so. Completely unconditionally. So, am I authentic? If I bring more energy of me into the present with people, very quickly I feel myself in need of withdrawing again. But they don't understand that, because they take my energetic connection with them as something that has changed for the good. It's not for 5 minutes. They think it exists from now on. When I no longer or don't do it the same way next time, or I avoid, or I just don't respond in a way that would be clear and obvious to them, it's as if I no longer want it, that I've changed my mind, I've stopped that. It hurts because it's a disconnecting feeling. It's not an inclusive thing, it's an excluding. It feels cold and hard, and perhaps more so because of the suggestion just a little while before that everything was better now. I'm open to you, we can talk, I'm interested, I care, I'm here, I'm with it. but it turns out it doesn't stay. And I think I'm being genuine and authentic then. And while I don't feel there's a problem with it not staying, the issue is that no one does. No one else does. They think it's a problem, so they don't stay. And then it's harder for me to come back like that again at another point because they doubt it. They don't give me the opportunity, and I don't feel like there is an opportunity. Maybe I no longer want to. I also realize the futility of attempting this and have already discovered or looked at more closely why I feel I should. Why do I need to keep doing it? So I must be looking for their approval. I must be wanting something from another person that I think they have to give me, but somehow they don't. Or if they do, it quickly dissipates into not really being anything at all. So I need it again and again. And more of it. Waves of it. I think that's what the stand-ups get when they get to a point where they get accepted. They feel people want to see them. They laugh and love, and it's love. So they're looking for love, and they need it from many people. I'm looking for love. I can't find it in individual people. I can't get from one person all that I need, all that would suffice. There isn't one person who can do that. It would have to come from many people. That for somebody to feel love towards me as a result of what I say or what I do is special. It feels real, and I recognize it as such, and I love it, but I can't want it. I can't depend on it. I can't rely on it. I can't desire it, but I can appreciate it, and it humbles me that somebody actually in this moment anyway, because often people make me feel like they love me, but very shortly, not too long afterwards, they stop feeling like that. They somehow return to earth. The bubble bursts and they see me differently. It's like I've enchanted them by how it is by what I see in them. That just for a moment they are that, and they feel it. So they see me and feel that me, which they love, which they just love. They fall in love with, they want to be with. And with a bigger ego, even if I thought it was small enough, I have let them. And there are consequences to doing that. I then fall, where at the time I feel I have let them come to me. So in a sense I hold the sort of moral, ethical high ground. I don't know how to describe it. I'm in control because they have opened up their heart. They have become vulnerable with me. But it doesn't take long for me to do the same, and then I fall into needing them to now give me what I need, which they can't. To give me what's missing, and they can't. And they try, and they can in many ways. Justine was very good, maybe the best at, and so was Patty, also good at giving something. Everybody has been good at giving something, but they can't give everything, and that something isn't enough. The only thing that that covers all that is God. Without the distraction, without the physical, without the desire for certain things, only God can fill the gap of everything. And somehow God is outside. God, the appearance of outside. So everything that is not me, that is not my perspective, this conscious awareness is God, because everything is one. All that is. So to be authentic in front of people who show that as a appreciation by laughing and applauding and loving it is like having God's love, feeling God's love, a love that is far bigger and more precious, more real, more important than a single person's love, or a few people's love, or a family's love, or a wife's love, or a girlfriend's love. It's God's love. I could say a previous me felt God's love without it coming through loads of people, just loads of individual people here and there, time at different points, reminding me that God's love is there, that I am connected to it, and the world moved differently according to me, because synchronistically things just worked so almost miraculously that the feeling that everything that's taking place is conscious, with intelligence and with awareness, and it's happening perfectly in a way that my little mind couldn't even begin to comprehend. But I could begin to see examples of why it had to be like that, because the chances of this happening at this moment in this way, giving me this experience when I was even just thinking about ideas that related to it, were not coincidental. It showed a conscious intelligence, a conscious awareness at work, but way, way beyond any concept of father figure and father figure that most people get to. Very hard to conceive of God, but with enough examples one can begin to get a small understanding of how wonderful, how amazing, how incredible that something even like that, which I can't imagine, can be. And with all of that out there, there's me, this tiny me, worrying about this or concerned about that or affected by this physical thing or that material thing or this happening or that loss or this gain, or none of it matters. None of it is real. It's like I'm in a dream. It's a very physical, real dream, but it is a dream, and somehow forgetting that it's a dream and then believing that this chair is a real chair when it's a dream chair. I mean, it's very real. If I hit my dream fingers on the dream chair, it really hurts. That's not imaginary. But on some level, it's still being perceived as pain on a physical level, and some people can transcend that. So perhaps even that isn't real. My experience, what people have said, which I have agreed with, is that while the reality, the illusoriness of it can be seen as an illusion, the experience of it is always real. It's still real. Even if what I'm experiencing isn't the same as what you would be, standing next to me looking at the same thing, it's still real, because it's real for me just as it's real for you. We live in a multi-dimensional reality. I get all that. I know that I affect people. It doesn't matter what I do, I affect people. And I have learnt coping mechanisms to avoid having to go through what I think are going to be the same experiences, just in different circumstances with different people. Sometimes I forget that I don't want to follow that feeling again, because it feels so enticing, exciting in the present, that I just want more of it, even though experience tells me it does not last. It cannot last. It is chemical, it is biological. There's so much involved to create what I experience as my experience, that I forget again that yes, I've got to go around again. Yes, I've got to have that wonderful heady, enjoy the wonderful heady pleasure, indulge as fully as I can, because if I've opened to it, then you might as well step in it. If I've jumped into the pool, I might as well swim. But eventually I want to get out. Eventually getting out of the pool, as much as I've enjoyed being in it, is far more desirable now, because I've just had enough. I've had enough of swimming. Just had enough. And round and round and round and round I go. Life after life, experience after experience. And it continues. It's continuous. It never stops. There are periods of my day when I am unconscious and I have no idea what is happening in the outside world. It can sometimes be completely different when you wake up again. And who knows what takes place when I am not there. And we have ideas of death, and we see ourselves getting older and beginning to decay, and we know that eventually this physical thing stops. It needs to. And look how many of us are on this planet now because of the advances in medicine and diet that allows so many people to be here. And the spiritual teachings and teachers often refer to this by saying that as they are souls, and souls never die, but they are choosing to be here. It's all a conscious thing, whether you know it or not. So they've all chosen to be here at this time because this is a very auspicious time. It's a time of transformation and of shifting, major changes, when it looks like it's just getting harder. It's just getting harder. It's more difficult to do the things we used to do easier. Now it's harder to do those same things. So you have to be prepared to let go of those things and find contentedness in the things that can be done, that are easy to do. Don't have to be attached to the old things, because I used to like those things. I used to enjoy doing that. Yes, you used to, and you did it many times. But now you can enjoy doing this, because this is what you can do. You can find something you can do, even if it's something you never used to do at all. You might not have enjoyed it back then, but now, when options are different, things have changed, it can now become, oh, actually, you know what? Oh, I will read that, I will look at that, I will go there, I will do this. Just, it's different. In a way, this is different. You could say, well, I do a lot of this. I've made loads of these recordings and hundreds of audio recordings, and yet I'm not free. I don't feel free. It doesn't feel right to do this all the time. And I don't feel aggrieved because I'm being controlled, in the sense that I don't have the space to do this whenever I feel like it. Quantity, quality. Even maybe the feeling of, I suppose it was a small feeling of worry. Why, I don't know. Old vibration, low vibration, caused me to send a message. I wouldn't call, and it didn't seem appropriate. She's still in intensive care, but I had seen that she'd been on the phone. She'd used the message app. So she had to be able to. So I'll send her a text. How are you doing? But I don't know if that was disingenuous, because it was dealing with my own insecurity, and it was trying to give me a reply. If she had replied straight away, I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm doing okay, or I'm in it, then that would have done that. But she didn't. And that just for a moment ramped up the anxiety about, I now need to know, I better find another way to know if she's all right. Why? That there's a part of me that is afraid of the change that comes when she dies. It has to all be done differently. Everything is going to be different because I can't imagine it, because it's not happening now. I am not him. I'm still me. I have to let it go. It's not something to dwell on, but it creates or perpetuates a fear. Sometimes I choose the devil I know over the devil I don't. But even though I know, and so many times have I discovered that all change is good, ultimately.